Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Vandenberg. I'm a research scientist at the Alberta Centre for Child, Family and Community Research, and I've been asked today to provide some background on teen mentoring research. So the first thing I wanted to start with is to be sure that you define what you mean by teen mentoring if you are saying that you're practicing teen mentoring. And this table here comes from Michael Karcher's research. He's one of the leading researchers in terms of teen mentoring programs. And a lot of programs will say that they're practicing teen mentoring or what he calls here peer mentoring when they actually mean some of the other activities that are on this table. So, for example, when I was doing a recent inventory of school-based mentoring programs here in the province of Alberta, a lot of them said that they were practicing teen mentoring. For example, they may have a program where older students are helping younger students in the transition into junior high school, and that would actually be peer helping as opposed to peer mentoring. So, in terms of Michael Karcher's definition of teen mentoring, it's a middle or high school aged mentor, so at least 2 years older than the mentee, and a mentee meeting regularly, so usually on a weekly basis, for a consistent period of time to engage in conversation, play, or structured activities as opposed to teaching skills or going over homework. And that helps to forge a close relationship in which the mentee experiences empathy, praise, and attention from the mentor. And some of the research behind this definition um, is, for example, with regards to using middle or high school aged mentors. Some research has examined using elementary and middle school aged mentors, and they found smaller effects when using mentors of this age and larger effects when there was this 2 year age difference between the mentor and the mentee, and also more positive effects when the pair also attended different schools. And some researchers suggest the possible reason why there were smaller effects in terms of using the elementary or middle school age mentors is that they feel maybe these mentors are less able to see from other people's perspectives. They may be more impulsive and less able to focus on a mentee. In terms of the engaging in conversation and play and structured activities, in participating in these activities, the focus is more on the development of the relationship. And research has found that matches that participated in physical activities, talking, crafts, games, had better outcomes than those matches that focused on academic activities. And it also increased the likelihood that those pairs would be rematched together again in the next school year. Um, Similar to how adult mentors and mentee matches are made, it's recommended that matches with teen mentoring be made on shared interests and experiences. And one of the ways to do this is maybe to have a meet and greet between mentors and mentees. And one research study has found higher quality relationships in those matches that had select each other in one of these meet and greet mixtures. So, how common is teen mentoring in Canada and in the province of Alberta? So, in an inventory of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Canada, it was found that 60% of agencies said that they are currently offering a teen mentoring program, and 90% of those programs were less than 10 years old, and 50% were less than 5 years old. So, this is a real new and emerging field here in Canada. And in that recent inventory of school-based mentoring programs here in Alberta that I mentioned, we found that 18% of those programs are offering a teen mentoring program, and the geographic locations of those programs are indicated in that map that you see on the right. And 73% of the Big Brothers Big Sisters Canada agencies that said that they were running a teen mentoring program said that they're planning on increasing the size of their program in the next 3 to 5 years. So it's definitely something that's growing. So although I said I was going to be talking about teen mentoring research today, I did want to provide a caveat to this presentation in that it's definitely a new and emerging field. So there's no large randomized trials, so kind of the gold standard of research on teen mentoring programs. So a lot of the research is on small single-site randomized trial, but they have shown positive outcomes in a lot of those studies, although many of them use small sample sizes, so a small group of mentors and mentees that they're examining. Also, with a lot of the support materials that have been developed for a lot of these programs, many have not been systematically evaluated, so say different mentor training programs or different curriculums for these matches. So basically, the practice of teen mentoring has really outpaced the research. So just to keep that in mind as we're going through these results. So there's many different models of teen mentoring, and they differ in terms of their characteristics and some of the outcomes that they've seen with these different models. So the first option is terms of the setting. So the setting can be school-based. It can be another site outside in the community that's supervised, or somewhere else in the community that's unsupervised. The match structure, so it can be one-on-one matches, so one mentor to one mentee. And those groups can either meet alone, so one mentor, one mentee meeting separately in a room, or one mentor mentee meeting amongst various other matches in one larger room, say in the library of a school. And then there's also group mentoring approaches, so multiple mentors meeting with multiple mentees, all in a group format. And they also vary in terms of the age of the mentee and the mentor. So in that Big Brothers Big Sisters of Canada inventory of teen mentoring programs, most of that they were running a school-based program with one-on-one matches that were meeting in a larger group. And most of the teen mentoring research has been done to date focuses on the school-based and one-on-one match model. So one thing to keep in mind for research around these one-on-one matches meeting in a larger group, it did find, some research studies have found that these matches do last longer, and it encourages the retention of mentors to stay in the program. However, mentees reported that they felt that their mentors were less focused on them. So a recommendation, if you are using this type of model, is to have extra program support for supervision of those matches to make sure the mentors are focusing on their mentees. And another aspect of a model of teen mentoring is whether the mentors receive benefit for their time spent mentoring. So 64% of those Big Brothers Big Sisters Canada teen mentoring programs said that their mentors received either, say, a school credit or community service hours for their time. There's some implications of that I'll mention shortly. In terms of how to recruit these mentors and mentees, there are some suggestions from the research. So if a program wants matches to carry over into the next year, it's important to recruit mentors before they reach grade 12, because those grade 12 students will be going on to university or college or apprenticeships in the next year. One idea of possible pool to recruit mentors is students who had a previous experience as a mentee in elementary school were more likely to volunteer as mentors in high school. So that's one place to maybe look for them. Some qualities to look for in the mentors is mentors that believe that they're going to be successful in the mentoring relationship was a good predictor of subsequent relationship quality. So look for those positive attitudes when doing interviews with mentors. Michael Karcher also recommends testing mentors in terms of their social interest. And he's done this using a scale called the social interest scale. And as mentors who scored lower on this scale, they were less likely to continue mentoring into a second subsequent year. And mentors that scored higher on that scale were more willing to take on mentees who were greater behavioral and academic risks. Mentors who valued youth more highly resulted in mentees who were more emotionally engaged in the match. So look for mentors that have positive attitudes towards youth. And also in the interview, you can look for mentors' level of maturity, as well as these above characteristics that I've mentioned. And a future area of research is to look at the reasons that teen mentors volunteer, and that can help lead us to maybe ways that we can aim our programs towards some of those motivations. In terms of recruiting mentees, there's been a little bit of research around this. So they found different outcomes for mentees, whether they were referred to the program as together as a class, so all the grade threes go on to teen mentoring, or whether they were selected on an individual basis. So for those mentees that were referred all as a class, actually showed declines in teacher-rated pro-social interactions in their academic functioning, and significant increases in teacher-rated emotional behavioral problems, whereas those referred individually showed increases in social competence. Also, one of Michael Karcher's studies, they recommended recruiting children with mixed risk status. So really being choosy about who is referred onto the program. There's some research around supports that can be provided to these programs that can result in positive outcomes. So positive effects of teen mentoring are diminished with less training and less monitoring support. So that's something to keep in mind. And one of the specific ways that support can be provided is through the use of a curriculum. So most of the teen mentoring programs in Canada and the United States have reported that they don't use a curriculum. And even when they said that they were using a curriculum, it tended to be a loose definition. So they may have used the word curriculum, but it was simply maybe ideas of activities that the match could participate in during their match time. So the use of a curriculum can provide structure to the match. Another support is training for the mentors. So mentors who received at least 2 hours of training and who had high quality support from program staff had stronger and closer relationships with their mentees and were more likely to carry that relationship on into the next year. So that 2 hours should be considered as the minimum, and most of the Big Brothers Big Sisters Canada teen mentoring programs in that inventory reported that they were providing about 5 hours of training in order to get their mentors up to speed. And some possible topics that can be covered in the training is the mentoring relationships, life cycle, active listening skills, negotiation strategies, conflict resolution, and what the role of a mentor is. And in terms of ways to deliver that training to teen mentors, it's developmentally appropriate for it to be more interactive as opposed to lecture style kind of training. So the use of role plays is really recommended. The provision of monitoring support is also recommended. So one study found that the frequency with which mentors talked to program staff was associated with positive outcomes for the mentees. So some of the things that staff should look for when they're monitoring these relationships is to watch for instances of deviancy training. So an example of that may be the mentor participating in inappropriate jokes with the mentee, so keeping an eye out for things like that. How often the mentor or the mentee might be absent, and if the mentors are becoming overwhelmed with their mentee, say, behavior. And a way to conduct the monitoring is by keeping log sheets, keeping attendance of the mentor and mentee, and having staff, the mentors and mentees, maintain reflective journals on how each of the sessions go. There have been a few challenges identified with teen mentoring programs, and the most common being the inconsistent attendance of mentors. So research has shown that more consistent mentors resulted in greater mentee improvements in terms of their social skills, connectedness, and self-esteem. And inconsistent attendance by mentors was associated in mentees' decline in self-esteem and behavioral competence. And Michael Karcher has suggested that absent mentors may do more harm than good. So it's really important to be sure with these mentors that they commit to the program, and that the importance of consistency be stressed during that during the training sessions with the mentor. And a possible future area of research is to investigate reasons why mentors are absent, and then maybe target those to make sure that they are consistent in their attendance. As I mentioned earlier, receiving class or community service credit by mentors. Research has found that in these instances, mentors were less likely to carry over their matches into the next school year compared to volunteer matches that weren't doing it for any sort of credit. And mandatory mentors tend to only volunteer until the end of the commitment required to receive credit. So, a recommendation to address this is to make the credit contingent on having a full year of volunteering and consistent attendance in the match meetings. I just wanted to touch on some of the outcomes that have been found from teen mentoring. So in that inventory of Canadian Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies offering teen mentoring programs, anecdotally, 81% felt that both the mentees and the mentors benefited equally from participating in the match. One study found that teen mentors were similar in terms of relationship length and quality to adult mentors. That similar study found that teen mentors involved their mentees more often in decision making during their meetings, and they also participated less in academic activities. So there was more of the focus on the games and conversations. And also in that inventory of Big Brothers Big Sisters Canada agencies with teen mentoring programs, they stated that their teen mentoring pool was more culturally diverse than their adult mentor population, and they saw that as a benefit. In terms of specific benefits for mentors, some studies have found increased experience and responsibility taken on by mentors, increases in terms of moral reasoning and empathy, greater connection to the school, community, and academics, and improved self-esteem. And of course, benefits have also been found for the mentees. So again, greater connectedness to school and to parents, increases in self-esteem, self-worth, and self-efficacy, and social skills. There's been some tentative findings in terms of improvement of academic achievement, but it's something that needs to be researched further. And moving into that, future opportunities for research, there are a few recommendations to keep in mind. So it's recommended to use more rigorous research methods now that we've had these single randomized studies to go a little bit more complex in terms of research methods and also in terms of larger samples. Also to examine longer term outcomes. A lot of what's been examined so far has been short term outcomes. So for example, with these findings of greater connectedness to school and academics, to see how long these gains persist. Another thing that could be examined is one of the advantages, it's thought, of having teen mentors is that they'll keep this spirit of volunteering in mind and grow into adult volunteers. And that really hasn't been shown so far in research in terms of it hasn't even been examined. So that's something to look into. Also using research designs that have a control group. So often only the group receiving mentoring has been examined and there hasn't been a comparison group, so inclusion of a control group would be advantageous. Also the use of non-self-report measures, so looking at things that are somewhat objective like grades, behavioral referrals, and assessments from external sources. And a lot of the focus has been on mentee outcomes, but also looking at what is the benefit for mentors. And that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at cvandenberg